Now, I request the first speaker, Christy, to make a presentation on her findings of the analysis of the COSP, mapping of the COSP programs. So Christy Abraham is a development professional with expertise in the areas of gender, women's rights, disability, violence against women, and HIV and AIDS. She is adept to lead and support organizations in program or policy responses in the face of human rights violations, building political perspective on rights, justice, diversity, equality, inclusion, and intersectionality. She is currently the board member, Praxis, Institute for Participatory Practices, New Delhi, Treasurer, Ashraya, Bengaluru, member, the Leprosy Mission Trust, New Delhi, Advisory Committee member, Caritas India, CBR program, and advisor, Bembala Foundation, Bengaluru. Christy, over to you for the presentation.
The UNCRPD 2006, Article 4 reaffirms that persons with disabilities of any form are entitled to all human rights and fundamental freedoms. Article 28 of UNCRPD focuses on adequate standards of living and social protection to address poverty as experienced by persons with disabilities. Now, Article 40 states that the signatories of the conference should come together regularly in a conference to find solutions to matters arising out of the for the implementation of the UNCRPD. So this was one of the basis for the mapping. Moving forward. Next slide, please. Yeah, when it comes to the Sustainable Development Goals, 5 of the SDGs very specifically include disability and persons with disability. Under Goal 4, education, Goal 8, economic growth, Goal 10, reduce inequalities, Goal 11, save sustainable cities, and Goal 17, data and monitoring. So you can see that certainly SDGs 1, which is linked with the poverty, and SDG 2, which is linked with hunger, are specifically not included people with disabilities. However, there are 6 other goals which have targets linked to disability by definition linked to vulnerable population and to all, which includes people with disabilities. Goal 1 is definitely included in this, but again, Goal 2, hunger, is not included at all. So one of the main things when I talk about the findings, also maybe I will say what I would like to reiterate is that Goal 2 around zero hunger is missing completely in the targets. Somewhere in the later, we can also see that at the SDG report, the 2018 flagship report mentions hunger and a target. But however, in UNDESA websites, it's very difficult to find any targets linked to zero hunger. Now, poverty, how it is defined, or the target around poverty is that by 2030, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than $1.90 a day. Move forward. Now, the objective of the study was to map and analyze COSP conversations. As you know, Article 40 says very clearly that there should be an annual COSP, which has been happening. And so to look at the COSP conversations and commitments to poverty and disability linked to SDGs 1 and 2 and the UNCRPD commitments. Now, the methodology that we used was a desk review of the COSP agendas, roundtables, background notes, and reports from 2008 to 21. All the years from 2008, there has been a COSP. Mapping of side events was done for 2015 to 21 only. And there was also a desk review of other contemporary reports on poverty. Next slide, please. Of poverty and disability, actually. Yeah. Okay, now coming quickly to the conclusion, to the findings of the study, what we could see was that all, as I said, 14 COSPs were held. In COSPs, what happens, there will be generally 3 roundtables and the roundtables discuss the main themes, which is the theme selected for the roundtable. But in the initial years, from 2008 to 2015, there were more informal sessions and interactive sessions. So totally, there were 14 COSPs were held, and there were 33 roundtables, 6 informal sessions, and 7 interactive sessions. 3 out of the 33 roundtables and 1 out of 6 informal sessions was on the theme of poverty. So less than 10% of the time or energies was invested on discussing the issue of poverty and hunger. The informal session was way back in 2009, and the roundtable on poverty were in 2013, 2015, and 2016. Why I'm again saying that is, one, it happened all before the SDGs were rolled out in 2015, and it's immediately after that there was some discussion which happened on the SDGs on poverty. And so you can see that in the very recent years, there has been no discourse at all on, even with increasing poverty and increasing disasters, emergencies, etc., there has been less discourse on that or no discourse on that. 4 other roundtables of the 33 make some reference to poverty. That is 2021, when there was discussions on armed conflict and humanitarian emergencies. There is 2020, when there was discussion on business, and in 2019 on technology and digitalization, and 2018 on the national fiscal space. And that there is a need for addressing poverty, and there is need for resources to be allocated towards addressing poverty. In the discussions on business, there has been some references to how employment and how businesses can help address poverty of people with disabilities. In conflict and humanitarian emergencies, how to prioritize people with disabilities, because their needs, particularly around food, will be different, and how it can be met. And it says that if all the people are trained on technology and digitalization, it can to a large extent address people's poverty. So these are just references made in background notes. With every COSP, when there are roundtables, each roundtable also has got a background note. And after the conference, there is an annual report, report which is which comes out of the COSP conferences. So this is what we have looked at, and the findings. In terms of the UNCRPD articles, there is definitely special reference made to Article 24, which is education. So the gradual process of education of people with disabilities, persons with disabilities, which can lead to poverty eradication, finding work and employment, particularly decent employment, and how to pull people out of poverty. Article 28, which talks about adequate standard of living and social protection, and 30, which talks about participation of people with disabilities in recreation, leisure, and sport, and on the human rights of people with disabilities as stated under the general obligations. So these are certainly referred to in the background notes. Move forward. So what we are trying to say is that there were 4 discussions, and through that discussions, there has been some minimal efforts to bring attention to the concerned people on the issue of disability and persons with disability. So main thing that was coming up was the structural barriers that exist in countries, and how countries should form policies to address these structural barriers. Lack of data on people with disabilities was again coming up very strongly in the background notes, as well as in the annual reports. People were raising the issue of lack of data in countries. Impact on differential groups, on women, girls, and people living in conflict affected areas. In fact, in the initial 2009 and 15, 16, there has been more efforts to emphasize the linkages between poverty. And so referring to certain research studies which has happened, which talks about to establish that there is a very strong and close linkages between poverty and people with disabilities and the linkages for differential groups. Lack of national initiatives, national policies to address the issue of poverty was strongly mentioned. And the first four certainly was coming up in the COSP documents, but the other hunger and malnutrition was coming up in the SDG report, which was coming in 2018 towards the latter part. Poverty trap and multidimensional poverty faced by people with disabilities was coming up in the SDG reports. COVID-19 exacerbated, how it exacerbated poverty also was coming up in the more recent poverty discourses. And the pitfalls of the international poverty line was more highlighted by the UN Special Rapporteur on persons with disability. UN Special Rapporteur on poverty
Christy,
and hunger.
You just have a minute.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So these were highlighted as key issues. Now, what were some of the analysis and the pitfalls? Next slide is that most of them spoke about UN perspectives only, and there was no evidence coming up from commitments by governments. No clear how impactful the COSP are for the poorest people. Human rights discourses were very weak. There was lack of civil society push on the themes, and there were silos and parallel processes happening. And as Venki said, some of the focus areas or the recommendations emerging were again to look at poverty as a human rights issue, to look at social protection flows and social protection, economic empowerment for people, ensuring basic amenities are there, looking at data and advancement of the rights of the people with disabilities. Is this enough to address the increasing problem? This poverty is one of the worst crises faced by the world today, and people with disabilities are one of the worst impacted groups. COSP can play a critical role. National governments, UN agencies, and civil society can work together to play a more proactive role to eliminate poverty and hunger for people with disabilities. So very little is actually found from the COSPs, which is annually happening, a big opportunity. And so this is what the findings say, and I acknowledge the contributions made by Deborah, Lily, Radhika, Sally, and Venki towards this mapping study, which happened earlier. Thank you very much, everyone.